Yo, this show is on. I remember this one time I just got back from work. I picked up my gym bag in one hand and a protein shake bottle in the other hand. I straight into the gym, I'm ready to work out. I head to the locker room and then I realized that my gym clothes are missing from my bag. Damn. I'm still in my work shirt and tie right now. What do? I've got two options. Make the excuse not to work out because I don't have my gym attire and then go home. Or I take my tie off, pick up some weights and just train. I went for the second option. Best decision of my life. Okay, I lie. I've made better decisions than deciding to get sweat all over my work shirt and shiny shoes. Just as a side note though, had I forgotten my headphones on the other hand, then I probably would have struggled working out that day. Like if you can relate. I got on my workout. I did get some odd looks from people, but I couldn't give a cookie what people thought, to be honest. Of course, I'm sure some people thought I'm being silly and perhaps embarrassing myself. I must say, that was one of the most exhilarating and intense gym sessions I'd had in a while. I was in my forget what you think mode. If I wore a t-shirt that day, it would have probably read something like, in loving memory of when I gave it a toss. The less I thought about what other people thought, the more energized I felt. Looking back at this, I could have decided to go home and skip training that day. But apart from trying to look like I'm the most disciplined person on earth, who has no excuse for anything, trust me, I make up excuses all the time. But apart from that, I learned a very, very important lesson that day. No one actually cared about me working out in a suit shirt and church shoes. Maybe one or two people, but let's face it, for the most part, very few people care about what you do, especially strangers. And that's a good thing. Half the time we worry about what other people think of us, especially if you're doing something out of the ordinary. And this is what causes fear amongst a lot of us. This imaginary fear cripples us to a point where we start making up excuses for not doing certain things. Now that you know people don't care about you, it's time you stop caring about what people think about you, because most of the time they just don't care. We worry about what other people think so much so that we spend a lot of time inside our heads instead of focusing on the more important things. Here's a quote from the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fudge by Mark Manson. Way of putting a beep, you can substitute with whatever word you want. Giving too many F's is bad for your mental health. It causes you to become overly attached to the superficial and fake, to dedicate your life to chasing a mirage of happiness and satisfaction. The key to a good life is not giving a about more, it's giving a about less, giving a about only what is true and immediate and important. Did I mention that there's quite some profanity in the book? But this is a family-friendly channel, of course, so I'll keep the language a bit more accommodating. What Mark Manson is saying is you should stop giving a cookie about certain things in your life, especially those of expectations we have from society to be a certain somebody, but instead focus on the more important things that actually matter. So basically just stop doing things to impress others. And there's so much relief when you stop caring. See, I think of myself as being a very tidy person and well organized. I prefer things around the house to be placed where they should be and some things done a certain way. That's just me. And over the years, I've lived with several housemates, some extremely tidy individuals and some not so tidy. Okay, they may have been a bit messy for my standard. Rightfully though, they seemed to believe that there's no fixed location for things around the house. For example, one would be okay with leaving clothes on the bottom floor or socks on the kitchen counter, or maybe have one shoe in the corridor and the other in the car. I, on the other hand, I struggled to cope with that. So as you can imagine, this actually did frustrate me a little bit until I stopped caring. After I'd endlessly been asking the housemate to tidy up or me tidying up after them, and closing kitchen cupboards that had been left wide open, I made the decision to myself to stop caring. And when I started walking over mismatched socks on the floor and not caring, I felt so much relief. I learned that the more important things to care about, like my studies, and work than obsessing over how a table lamp has been shifted slightly. And that calm about it helped me address the issue of tidiness without getting wound up about it. I'm not saying you should walk away from the problem that's right in front of you. Just stop caring a little bit less, and with a clear mind, you'll be able to come up with more creative ways of resolving that issue. Your mind can be your worst enemy, all because you give a toss about things that don't matter and you become anxious for no reason at all. And Mark Manson puts it well in his book. Most of us struggle throughout our lives by giving too many F's in situations where F's do not deserve to be given. You find yourself getting angry at that person who cut you off in traffic to a point that you are angry for the rest of the evening, even when you get home, and not because you're so angry you can't enjoy the things that matter, like being with your family, for instance. In the book, Mark also goes on to talk about the feedback loop from hell, as he calls it. And this is a situation where, for example, you are anxious about confronting someone. And not because you're anxious, you get anxious about being anxious. Or if you're upset, you realize your negative emotion of being upset, and then you get upset about being upset. And here's a quote from the book. That anxiety cripples you and you start wondering why you're so anxious. Now you're becoming anxious about being anxious. Oh no, doubly anxious. Now you're anxious about your anxiety, which is causing more anxiety. Dang. So to break out of that loop, you just need to accept your negative feeling. You need to accept that negative emotion and say, oh yeah, well, we all get upset sometimes. Basically, just stop caring and accept your negative emotion and you'll feel free. Hopefully you found this one useful. Give it a like, share, comment down below. That's it for now. Peace.